folks, welcome back. In this tutorial, we will talk about access modifiers. To start with, we're going to do a simple example. We'll create a class called as cat class. And cat will have two variables, string name to store the name of the cat, and we'll also have a variable to store the size of the cat. And I'm going to display the name of my cat is the name and the size of the cat my cat is the size. So here I've created a simple cat class. I haven't created any objects. So now I'm going to go ahead and create objects. So we'll go back to the debug and we're going to say cat C is equals to new of cat object. So this is the way I've created. And now I'm going to go ahead and set the name of my cat to, let's say, Tina. And the size of my cat, I'm going to go ahead and do -1. So this is okay, right? If I say the size of my cat is going to be -1, or if I say 0, it is possible. But this should not be happening, right? I should not allow, if I go ahead and call the display method, what's going to do is it's going to go ahead and display the name of my cat as Tina and the size is 0, because you're setting these two variables and there's no restrictions. So if I say here, I'm going to say the right method, it's display. And if you execute it, the output of the program is going to be exactly what the variables that you have set, Tina and cat. I don't want, this is so horrible to set a cat size of 0. I don't want someone to go ahead and set the size whatever they want. I wanted to put some restrictions on them. I don't want them to set a wrong value for my cat. But you are able to do this. Because what's happening is, since you have made these variables as public, this is called as access modifiers. These are called as access modifiers. Now, because it's public, anyone will be able to access it outside of the class. So if I wanted to prevent someone not to directly set the values of these variables, I don't want them to see it. So how will I do that? I'll change my variables to private. I'm saying, okay, I don't want anyone to just go ahead and set whatever they want. I want them to set a right value, not something random. So now if I go ahead and execute it, since I've changed these access modifiers to private, no one will be able to see it outside of this class. So now if I execute this, I'm going to get an error, variable is not visible. So I got an error that, okay, I'm not able to do that. So how will someone be able to set the values now? You can set the values of these using the methods, and you can make the methods it's public. So if I wanted to set the name or age, let's say I wanted to set the age of my, the size of my cat. So I'll say public void set the size. I'll create a method to set the size of my cat. And in this time, I'm going to go ahead and take some parameters and I'm going to say, let's say size, and
whatever the user is passing me. So this is the S. I'm going to store in S and I'm going to put this. Now I'm going to see, first of all, if the value that the user is trying to set is less than or equals to 0, I don't want him to set a wrong value. So I'm going to say you cannot set a wrong value for my cat. And you can specify the value that you want. So I wanted to, by default, if somebody is trying to set a wrong value, I will give the size of my cat. So I'll say size is equals to, by default is, let's say 10. If someone is trying to set a right value, means it's not less than 0 or it's not 0, I will let him do that. So I'll say, okay, whatever the user is trying to pass, let him do that.
So what I've done here is my variables are private, so no one will be able to access it from outside. Okay, but the methods are public. I've created a method called public void set size. So this is a public method, means anyone outside it will be able to access this, and I'm passing a value called s. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to do c dot of set size. I'm going to say c dot of set size, and I'm going to pass, let's say, 13 in it. So I'm able to do that because 13 is a okay value. You can have size of 13 of a cat. Now if I'm going to go ahead and do this, the output is going to be, so it's going to go ahead and call this method, the set size. And the set size method, the s will have the value of 13 because this 13 will pass to this variable. Now you're checking, is the size less than 0? Is the value of s is less than equals to 0? No, 13 is greater than 0. So this block won't run, and it will run the else block, and it will set the size of the cat to s. Similarly, you can go ahead and set the size, you can set the name also. So you can go ahead and create another method here called public void set name. And in this case, you can go ahead and set the name whatever the user is passing. So let's say the user is passing whatever, I'm going to put it into the name variable. So here I can say c dot of set name, and let's say the name of my cat is Tina. So this is a good name. I'm going to go ahead and set it. Now if you go and run this, c dot of set name is going to call this method, and it's going to pass this Tina to this value, this n. And you're passing this name with the value of Tina. So if you go back and execute it, let me go ahead and save this, and let's run the program. So when you run the program, it's going to set the name and size of the cat. Name of my cat is Tina, the size of my cat is 13. So this is because you have this setup here. So these are called as the access modifiers. Usually, always you should try making your variables, the instance variables, as private so that no one outside of your class will be able to see them and will be able to set the values whatever they want. To prevent that, that's why we make these variables private. And in the method, you can see what goes into those values. You can restrict what should go. If somebody is trying to put a size of my cat to -1, I will throw an error right away saying you cannot set a wrong value for my cat. So if somebody is trying to do that, I will throw an error saying, okay, you can't set a wrong value for my cat. Okay, and then I'm setting whatever value I have provided, let's say by default of 10. So these are called as the access modifiers. In Apex, you have 4 different Apex modifiers. One is called private, the other one is called public, and then there is a protected, and then we have is protected, and then you have is global. So this public is different from the public that you have in Java. So the restriction increases as we go up. So if you go private, then you have is protected. The next one that you have is called as public, and the last one that you have is global. So this is more restrictive. If you go up here, this is more restricted and this is less restrictive. So global means outside of your application. Public is also going to be in this application. So it's going to be a good access, means you can see everything in the application. Protected, we're going to talk about when we're going to talk about inheritance. And private, this is like no one outside of the class will be able to see it. Usually you make your variables private and you make the methods as public so that no one will be able to set the wrong values of your variables. So this is about access modifiers. I will see you in the next class. Thank you.